Hi, this is Danny Donahue from DBros Multimedia, and I have with me here the Sony NEX-FS100UK. That's the one that comes with the full kit with a microphone, the 18 to 200 millimeter lens, and we also got the larger batteries which fit in there pretty well. Well, the thing with this camera is right here you can see in the record format I have here on the menu, these are the different options we have for this camera. There is the 1080 24p, 30p, 60p, 60i, 720 60p, and that's pretty much our options right there. If you notice, there's no partial frame options like 29.97, and there aren't any options for 720 60i, only 60p. In fact, it doesn't even do 720 30p, which is odd, but I guess this is a newer camera. The main difference with the 30p FX and FH apparently is just the FX has a little bit higher resolution, but they're both supposed to be pretty good. So I'm going to keep it at FX, which has the highest resolution, and click menu and there. And the other setting we have here in video out, I can go into my menu here, video out. I have a selection here of HDMI component, and which is our only output. As you notice, component will only do 480i, so my only options for high definition out is the HDMI. And then of course if we're doing non-HDMI, you have the down convert type and Y convert, but that doesn't make a difference at this point. The HDMI timecode output, I'll put that on. HDMI component, here are our options that we have: 1080p 480i, 720p or 480i. The 480, the slash means that's the component output. And then there's the 1080i 480i. Because I'm trying to go for 422 for chroma keying purposes, this is pretty much the only option the camera has. So we go OK, and return there, and that's set up as far as the camera goes. Okay, now I'm going to plug it into the HDMI cable. Here we have our Matrox MXO2-Max. I have the HDMI cable right over here, and this cable, by the way, is the HDMI 1.4. So this has to be the 1.4 should be able to carry the high definition image with time code with everything that we need. So plug it into the HDMI port. And the back of the camera. Right here we have the HDMI. Again, only has the high definition output through the HDMI, which Sony says does up to 444 output in the HDMI, although the standard is 422. So I have the Premiere Pro 5.5 installed so that we can have 30 frames per second 1080p sequence, and the driver's installed all right. I have now Windows Service Pack 1 installed on the Windows 7 64-bit Ultimate Edition. And what I'm going to do now is open up the Matrox AV Tools from the Start menu. And the capture folder I already have selected. That's in my RAID drive setup. And now, of course, we have the options with the new utilities of 1080p at 30 frames per second. So I'm going to select that, my aspect ratio, widescreen. In playback settings, video output already showed up on my professional monitor, 1080, 30 frames per second. HDMI output format, I have same as main output. That's what I have selected here. I've tried many different settings, but I'll start with the YUV for now. SDI output, that doesn't matter right now for this. Genlock we don't have, so Genlock here. I'm going to also put to HDMI video. So those settings are all fine. I'm going to put OK. You already start seeing a flicker on the main screen right now. And then I'll click on OK. And now I'm going to click on the camera button to see how the settings are. And right now I just get pretty much just green screen. I'm not getting anything from the camera right now. Sometimes what helps is I'll actually physically unplug the HDMI and plug it back in just to see if it kind of jump starts it or something. And so as you can see now, I have an image, but my image is jumping all over the screen. A lot of red artifacts and shaking and trembling, and I'm not sure exactly why. And so this obviously is totally unacceptable video to use for anything for that matter. So pretty much the whites I notice are pretty much red, and then you've got these green things jumping around everywhere. It's as if the color calibration's wrong, or just there's not enough signal going through. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. And so that's pretty much what happens right now. The main difference with the other version of the Matrox utility tools was that it would get to this frame and it would look just like this, but then just freeze up, and you'd have to restart the whole computer, restart the Matrox, like cold boot, turning it off, shutting it down. And so I'm just gonna close that, and I'm gonna open Premiere 5.5 right now. And in 5.5, I'm going to make a new project. I'm selecting the capture format. I want the Matrox AVI so that I can get that uncompressed image for ideal 422 image. And then configure. See, when I hit configure here, something I notice is that the output immediately goes on the Matrox goes to 480i, which I'm not sure why. My video capture settings, I don't have the option here for whatever reason for 30 frames per second. So I'm going to in Premiere. And now my capture format, I'm going to choose Matrox 8-bit uncompressed and HDMI. Sometimes it says invalid input. Sometimes it says the input is okay. Let me just unplug and plug this in, because that sometimes is what makes the difference. Plug that in. Okay, it is still saying invalid input. I'm going to do okay on that for now, because sometimes when I'm just going to name the project. Okay, now on the new sequence menu, I'm going to choose 1080p, 30 frames per second. Sequence name, just leave it sequence 1 default. Click OK. So my matrix settings come in now, and when they come in, then I have the 1080p 30 frames per second does come up on my screen as the output resolution, so that's a good sign. Now I'm going to do the capture, hit F5, and unfortunately, as you can see, I still have those horrible, jaggy lines going everywhere, and a lot of pretty much red everywhere on the screen with green lines and shaking all over the place. But we do have image, and it doesn't freeze up the computer, so clearly the newer version is accepting things. The new version of Premiere and the new version of the utilities is accepting things a lot better. My Windows Update does seem to be stabilizing things a little bit better. I just installed Service Pack 1 because usually this computer system is not on the internet, so just to avoid problems and have better performance on the computer. So in my capture settings, I see the Matrox AVI in there. I'm going to go edit just through Premiere just to make sure everything is fine. And I'm going to click the configure button again. Now, this time when I click the configure button, it's defaulted to the Matrox MPEG-2 iframe HD, although I selected 8-bit uncompressed before. But I'm going to go ahead and select it again. And now we see that the HDMI source, it says OK. It doesn't say invalid input beside it. And I'm going to keep it broadcast quality source. Click OK. Click OK. But we still have that. It's the same issue now. Nothing really has changed at all on the image of my output. Now, you notice my capture inside Premiere and my output monitor both have the exact same image. So clearly it's something that's happening from the Matrox, because if I plug in this HDMI camera, if I plug in the HDMI camera directly into the monitor, we get perfect image. So the output of the camera seems to be working just fine. So let me just press the record button here just to show you what will happen. It's recording just fine, but it's recording this horrible image. So I'm just going to stop that. Here we have, I just made a clip. Now, we've already done a test using the SDI, not with this camera, with a different camera with chroma key, and the HD SDI has perfect image with this setup. So I know that like the computer setup hasn't changed. We're way above spec of everything that we need. We have the Quadro FX 4000 2GB card with CUDA enabled. Everything should be working fine because we've already done chroma key tests with the HD SDI. Just the HDMI, that's what we're having trouble with. So hopefully this video helps. You'll be able to see what's happening, and maybe there's some configuration you can help us with.